Right. Again, I'll introduce myself again as Charlie Brown on behalf of St. John's Church Foundation. That's the organization that I work for. It was formed in 1938. It's a nonprofit organization. It's through the good graces of people that take the tour. The proceeds of the tour go into the preservation of the church. And we like to think that so many of our visitors are here because they appreciate the history of our country and the significance of Patrick Henry and this church to our history. And nothing will preserve our country more than appreciation for its past. But why don't I just, as they say in Hollywood, in California, not at our cemetery, let's just set the stage a little bit and how it is that this became such a significant place. Now we know the first colonists came in 1607 down to Jamestown, led by Sir Christopher Newport, that one-armed pirate. Well, he gets a little antsy down there at the fort, and the mosquitoes. The property's not much larger than this church. So he does what he does best when he wants to hit the road. He explores. And he's not a cavalry officer, so he explores by boat. So the whole idea was to follow Christopher Columbus, 1492, looking for gold and silver, the New World, and other resources they thought they were depleting in Europe. So he starts coming up the river, and as far as he can get is what we refer to as the falls. And that's where Piedmont Coastal Plain meets, 7 miles of rapids that is just west of here. So that's as far as he can navigate. So what he does is he puts that big cross right there in the ground, and then the government down there in Williamsburg wants to take advantage of any commerce that's taking place here. So they want a more formal community. They want a village at the falls. So they go to now William Byrd II, who has inherited the land from his father, William Byrd I. Virginia Dabness refers to him as the reluctant father of Richmond, but they work out some sort of deal. And as a little village is surveyed by Major William Mayo, it's only a fifth of a square mile. So it starts today, what is now 25th and Broad, right here at the corner of the property and the church, goes down to Shockoe Bottom, where they want to build a ballpark, goes down to the river. There's no riverfront property because there's a little common area right there. So that's all that it is. But any respectable town, of course, has to have a church. So it's here the timber off the land goes into the building of the church, which is completed June 10th, 1741. It's not what you can see today because the church grew in steps. The original wall, the one that protrudes out, is only 25 feet wide. That's all that it is. That's the west entrance. That's the main entrance to the church because churches, Anglican churches, were laid out that way. You'd enter from the west. The church was oriented towards the east, for that's where Jerusalem is. That's where the sun comes up, rather. So you've got 60 feet long by 25. There are 2 churches built prior to this in Virginia, one in Lancaster County, another in Hanover County, similar that they're twice as long as they are wide. Maybe it was the acoustics seem to be the standard size. Then the church grew in steps. We've got the first edition goes back to, about the second stained glass window to our left as we look at it. And that's important to note, for it's there that would be the size of the church at the time of the speech in 1775. Well, it's funny how life works. I used to be in the insurance business. I was in the insurance business for 28 years or so, and then one day they fired me. So that party was over. So then it was a question of what am I going to do with the last quarter of my life? And I remember all these wonderful commencement addresses, high school commencement, wherever it is, and everybody's talking about follow your heart. What's your passion? So when I think about it, I go, history. I love history. I was a history major in college. As a child, my family would take me, my parents would take me to historic sites such as this. If I'm reading a book for pleasure, it's always a history book. I can put it down and pretty much remember how the story's going to end. So one of the great, great fortunes of my life was to have an opportunity to work here, and I feel absolutely blessed. Again, it's an honor that I get to be with wonderful people that appreciate the history of our country. I get to share with them the little that I know about St. John's Church. And when I have people leave that are better connected to our history, it really warms my heart. I cannot impress upon you that it's an honor. I feel very, very, very fortunate. If it took getting fired to get here, thank God that happened. It's a great, and we work with a wonderful, wonderful team. Everybody feels very much the way that I do, and we get along extremely well. It's a great, great group to work. It's a pleasure to be here. So we have, as we know, it takes place here as the Second Virginia Convention. And the Second Virginia Convention is important because it's there that Patrick Henry gives the most famous speeches of American history, and that's his call to arms. What he felt is that Virginia need to be prepared. He says there are troops in people's homes in Boston. It's the redcoats, the lobsterbacks are there. Massachusetts today, Virginia tomorrow. And we know that he's a great orator. He speaks with the fervor of a preacher. He's a political actor. And he closes his speech by saying, "Is life so dear, is peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." Some accounts have him falling back, probably a little too dramatic. But as dramatic, persuasive he needed to be that day, he was, and the resolution only passes by 5 or 6 votes. And foreshadowing it is because only 3 weeks later, the shots heard around the world of those coming down from the plains of Boston, Lexington, and Concord, and the war has begun. Now, there are many things that determine the course of history. Weather is one of them. There's a trap for Cornwallis and the British troops on the peninsula in Yorktown. Cornwallis feels his only escape is across the York River. Storm comes up that October night. Troops go back to the peninsula. Checkmate, Rochambeau, Washington, last military engagement of the war. But the greatest determinant of history are the people that are in charge at the time of momentous events. And there's no finer example than the creators of this country, our framers, our founders, several of whom were here at the convention with Patrick Henry on the 23rd of March, 1775. The delegate is Mr. Thomas Jefferson of Albemarle County. He, with others, authors the Declaration of Independence. It's one thing to declare your independence, it's another thing to win it. That was left to Delegate George Washington. George Washington we refer to as the sword of the Revolution. Lost more battles than he won. His objective was always to preserve his army. He was a leader. His troops would follow him. They'd follow him through hell. And of course, Mr. Henry, the voice of the Revolution. It wasn't so much that he had a great voice, but he could articulate what he thought were self-evident truths. He could talk about no taxation without representation in a language which was understood well beyond the walls of the Capitol, beyond the walls of a convention. He helped galvanize the public. He's a rallying cry for independence in Virginia. He made sure that Virginia was part of an American revolution. It could more easily have been a battle between the northern colonies and the mother country. So the significance here is worldwide that these political geniuses all got together at the same time as if the hand of Providence were guiding them. As David McCullough said, they knew that they would be held accountable for this noble experiment, win or lose. And these are such courageous men, Patrick Henry being one, of course, that, well, I'm reminded of a speech that's given up here on the other hill. Ironically, it's by a woman who's a Brit. And she says, "Those unwilling to live the strenuous life of liberty are most likely to lose it." So that's our challenge. Not to be bystanders, but to make a difference. And those gentlemen made the difference for which we were all beneficiaries today. So not only does our wonderful city owe them a great deal of gratitude, but our country does also.